Thanks, Christy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Teaching Game Design, Coding and Creativity with GameMaker. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. We're going to look at the different methods of teaching GameMaker at different stages as students progress through their education. So to the agenda, we'll start with a brief overview of GameMaker, and then look at the approaches to teaching game design, including feedback from our teachers following a survey we did in November 2020. We'll then look at the different approaches taken for different student age groups, and for each age group, we will move on to the challenges brought about by COVID and how to adjust for home learning. We'll look at our approach to licensing and privacy, including the licensing support we've been providing for schools during the COVID period. And then finish up with a Q&A session and how to get your free license. Before we get to the educator resources, I'd like to provide a brief overview of GameMaker Studio 2. First developed in 1999 for use in education, it's easy to use 2D game making tool. Being 2D is important for learning because it removes much of the complexity associated with 3D, and it allows for faster progress with development. Drag and drop, or D&D as we call it, for no-code development. So students can firstly understand the fundamental building blocks and logic and progress to coding when they're ready, letting them to progress seamlessly without hitting a wall. Custom language, GML, that's a language that's used in GameMaker. This is a JavaScript-like language. It's based on C and designed to be easy to use for game design and simple to pick up. GameMaker includes an image editor, sprite editor, object editor, and room editor. It also now includes a sequence and animation tool, which allows students to improve their animations within the games dramatically. There's free teacher resources that teach the fundamentals of coding and help students to build their own games step by step. We have a large active community with a forum and social media and beginner tips from pros. Big studio credibility. Students can see hundreds of real games with many multi-million sellers made with GameMaker. The link here takes you to our showcase with award-winning games, and the current iPad game of the year was Hyperlight Drifter, which was made with GameMaker. Over 1,500 new users register every single day, with 90% of them being beginners. So while GameMaker is a professional tool, it is at the same time very accessible and a foundation tool to help people learn. So we sent out a questionnaire to our teachers at the start of November 2020. The responses are consistent with when we asked the same questions back in 2019, with planning, individual confidence, and learning engagement all scoring more than 75% when it comes to being rated somewhat effective or better. When we asked how effective are games design lessons at teaching the following, you can see the positive results on the slide. I think one that's interesting on here is the student-teacher bond, which sits quite well at 65% as well. I'm often asked what age GameMaker is taught at. Today, we're going to look at approaches taken broadly at ages 12 to 14, 15 to 16, and 17 plus. Here's broadly how teachers approach the teaching of game design for the survey of educators who use GameMaker. As you can see, the teaching of GameMaker is very hands-on, so it suits kinesthetic learners. This is probably why we hear that students who struggle to engage in other areas of the curriculum are much more motivated to engage with GameMaker game design lessons. I was recently talking to one of our teachers who provides alternative provision to children who have behavioural difficulties and who can't be accommodated in mainstream education. And he was saying the Space Bubbles video tutorial, which are part of the free educator materials, are at the right level for his students. There are 3 approaches to teaching that I'm going to cover in this presentation. First, in blue, is make a game step by step using video. This is an approach that solely relies on video tutorials where users build and extend games from no knowledge using drag and drop, and then progress into making these games using GML coding. This is more appropriate to home learning situations, out of school camps and clubs where there's no formal framework needed for learning code. The students are learning the skills in a more hands-on way, so educators may need to provide some structure to what they've learned afterwards using the educator classroom materials. This requires less educator input. Then in orange, making a game step by step with teacher leading, where the educator provides guidance on the teaching of code to fulfill the school curriculum, and this is reinforced with step-by-step tutorials. It comes with an assessment structure and homework. This is the approach taken by our educator resources and will require the educator to run online tutorials to go through the slides. In green, we have the approach of setting a project for students to interpret. This is generally the approach we see taken with those aged 15 to 16. This is actually the most popular approach and is used in more advanced curricula where students are required to show creativity and practical implementation of programming. For this approach, I will show you the resources that can provide guidance and inspiration. So this is how teachers evaluate the progress being made by students. Our free tutorials include fully documented teacher and peer evaluation criteria. Assessing progress can be a difficult part of home learning, and GameMaker enables easy sharing of games so educators can check on progress. In a previous survey, we got some great feedback from educators on how using game design has aided the education process of their school. Sorry, the kids are happier in class. There aren't behavioral problems like in other classes. Games require creatives and tech teams to work together with a common goal to solve. While they build games, they also build friendships, learn to overcome hardships and create something meaningful. My students very much enjoy the games design units that I teach. Personally, I think that games design is effective at improving problem solving and attention to detail and teamwork. The students have learned to solve complex or abstract problems by themselves. The content provides a sufficient challenge and helps develop persistence and attention to detail. It has certainly enabled some students who are otherwise disengaged from the curriculum to re-engage. So what about the students? What do they get out of it and what do they enjoy the most? Definitely the end where they finally tried their own game, even if it was the most simple game in the world. Learning to overcome challenges and having a working program. The students love to show their parents what they have made by themselves. They're very proud if they get their ideas done and improve their skills. The feeling of accomplishment when completing a game and watching others play the games that they build. Just being able to create an original game, then watch their peers play the game is such a high for these kids. To say I made that is a real ego boost. Creating games, making rapid progress in a short span of time. Thinking up new games. Brainstorming is normally a pain to get students to do, but not when it involves games design. And seeing their ideas take shape. Looking at different styles of teaching, at the age of 12 to 14, school curriculums are mainly focused on teaching students the fundamentals of coding and giving them engaging ways to enable them to put that into practice. And to this end, we created space bubbles for an education environment. There is a list of everything included in the materials. Space bubbles is a D&D project-based scheme of work where students work on one project over the course of 8 one-hour lessons, with 30 minutes being spent on learning coding and 30 minutes being spent on making the Space Bubbles game. Over these lessons, students are taught how to program recreating their own version of the game, Space Bubbles, using video tutorials, aimed at children aged 12 to 14, but can be used for older and younger, and developed by Terry Watts, who is a teacher and formerly games designer. In a home learning environment, the lessons can be taught using Zoom, and the students can progress using the video tutorials. They are able to export their game, submit their assessment forms. Each lesson has its own starter project, so if a student does get stuck, they can always move on and progress. The curriculum topics covered include programming key concepts and principles, sequencing, selection statements and iteration, and modeling the state and behavior of real-world problems in physical systems, like making a hot chocolate in homeworks. and also contains teacher review, self-review, and peer review. Moving now to video tutorials, which don't require a teacher to lead. This is the first of our consumer tutorials where students can learn on their own. This game is based on the classic Asteroids game for beginners, with many of the same mechanics as Space Bubbles. It covers both drag and drop and GameMaker language, so you can make the game in D&D and then remake it in GML. This is an official tutorial made by one of our community educators, Friendly Cosmonaut. So it is a different teaching style and includes an intro into GameMaker. The focus of this is to retain engagement through quick wins. You create your ship and get it moving within a few minutes before layering on additional game elements and mechanics. Space Mods builds on Space Rocks. It also has D&D and GML versions. This additional content can also support students when they need help with the Space Bubbles extensions and challenge tasks. Power-ups, enemy ships, cameras, parallax and layered backgrounds for 3D perspective and depth, and visual effects, particles and screen shake. There's a nice comment there, from a user who felt that they were able to start making their own modification to their games once they completed Space Mods. Breakthrough is a brick breaker game. It's taught for both GML and D&D, so students have the opportunity to develop the game in both methods. Around half of all projects being worked on in GameMaker are D&D, so there's no need to go to GML until you're ready. This is a totally different style of game, but the teaching is still at beginner level. Fire Jump is our latest tutorial. It is a drag and drop full game tutorial that introduces the basics of GameMaker's D&D system to create your own infinite platformer game. It comes as a 4-part tutorial series. Please check it out after the webinar. Click the link for more information. And on the site, there is a link to play the web version of the game too. From the age of 15 to 16, we see the school curriculum focusing more on the creative application of coding. With project-based tutorials, you can set a theme and see how your students interpret it. Based on a marking scheme, the scheme could include the following: interpretation of the theme, complexity or functionality used, playability, coding practice, and creativity. Here are the resources for tools, artwork, audio, etc. that can be used as a basis for game creation. The Global Game Jam resources at the bottom are particularly noteworthy as they run the world's largest game jam each year, which takes place over 3 days. We also have blog articles that can provide inspiration from our team and pro developers alike. These can fit in well with the Space Bubbles and Space Rocks tutorials. They cover a wide variety of topics from planning, creating game mechanics, how-tos, getting your game finished, and how to make your code look neat and tidy, and much more. You'll never be short of inspiration and guides for how to do things on YouTube. And here's just a sample of games and tutorials that can be found easily. All GameMaker Studio features and settings are fully documented with examples in our online manual. One of the problems with home learning students aged 15 to 16 is that group learning and projects can be more difficult to achieve. To assist, we have official tools video tutorials that are accessible through our YouTube channel. These take you through all the tools, editors, and how they work. Watch this space, as we're always adding more video tutorials here. If you're looking for a more expansive set of game tutorials, this set of video tutorials starts at beginner level using GameMaker language and then progress to intermediate. It also connects to the author's own video platform tutorials on YouTube. This is Sean Spalding's platformer, which links to ours and contains a further 27 videos on YouTube. We have new education materials that we have just released. This is a more detailed GML-based game design tutorial for artists and people starting to learn game design at college or university, where you are guided on how to make a game called Little Town, an adventure playing game created by university lecturer and game designer Ben Rivers. Ben teaches game design for the Faculty of Design at OCAD in Ontario. These materials include a detailed booklet and video tutorials which students can use to make the game in 8 one-hour lessons, and there are about 9 hours of video. We also provide guidance for educators on how to teach it and how to evaluate progress. Little Town will utilize more advanced functionality within GameMaker, including our sequences animation functionality. All licenses provided have access to the sequences. For older students aged 16 plus, there is also the facility for them to engage with our community for help with their projects using our forum, the GameMaker Community Forum. We have 3 types of licenses available, and these can be purchased through Studica. We have Educator, which covers our desktop licenses, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Then we have Educator Plus, which covers desktop licenses, and web license, which is HTML5. And finally, we have Achiever, which covers the desktop, web, and then it has mobile, which contains Android, iOS, and Fire, UWP, which is Universal Window Platform, and PlayStation 4. There's a 1-year and 2-year option. The seats are concurrent use licenses, so they can be used for multiple classes. GameMaker can be used on PC and Mac, not yet Chromebook, but due to the overwhelming demand, we are actually developing that and looking at releasing it in the not so distant future. As can be seen from our recent survey in early November, at the time, only 5% of teachers were unaffected by COVID. As a consequence, we have provided support to our users throughout COVID. Currently, until December 31st, 2021, all seat licenses can be used by 5 students simultaneously. So 30 seats used in a computer lab can be used simultaneously by 150 students at home. Hopefully, we won't need to extend beyond December because it will be a safe place. But we will look at this nearer the time and to see if measures needed to be extended. Privacy in education. So the teacher acts as a seat manager. They receive 1 perpetual educator desktop seat that they can use to investigate GameMaker and understand setting up. The seats are entirely anonymous, including the usernames and passwords, which are randomly generated. No PIIs collected. There is more information in our privacy policy and a specific section on our approach to education. We're also approved for use with the education framework, educationframework.com. As a thank you for attending our webinar and making it to the end, you're eligible to receive a free teacher license. Christy will send you a link or click at the bottom when we send out these slides for instructions. Okay, and is there any questions?
Hi, yeah, one of the questions did come up. I was saving it for you. Is the code included with the step-by-step process?
Is the code included in the step-by-step process of the tutorials?
Yes, that's what I'm guessing.
Yeah. All the information is in there. So yeah, they talk you through it and the information's there. In some cases, there'll be projects that you just open and you can refer to.
Okay, and how can you use the teacher license?
How can you use the teacher license? In what respect? Sorry, the free teacher license?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically that allows you to download, set it up and understand and spend some time looking at GameMaker and understand the tool, look at the resources that we supply so you can investigate those because they're all free and you can download them. And also understand just setting up GameMaker and what the tool's about. So yeah, you can basically, get a free version and have a really good look at it and investigate everything and answer all your questions, if that makes sense.
Great. And how does the licensing occur if, say, we're a laptop school?
That's a good question, actually. How would the licensing occur? Well, that is why we're looking at Chromebook, I suppose. Currently, you can put the licenses onto students' laptops or home PCs because we're allowing schools to do that through extending the amount of seat licenses that we have. But normally, we would just have them in the school environment for now. Okay,
and can students publish games with the education license, or would they need Educator Plus for that?
In what sense do you mean publish? All of the licenses allow you to create the game for the platform. So for example, desktop allows you to create your executable for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And for example, the Web Educator Plus allows you to do games for Windows, Mac, Linux, and HTML5. So technically, you can make a game in GameMaker, but as soon as you want to export it out or share it, or you need to use the exports, and the exports are listed on each of the product for where that product will allow you to export the game.
And then the next question, is there a web version?
We don't have a browser version at present. Unfortunately, not. I can't answer a timeline for that at the moment either, but it's something we do get asked, and it's something that we do talk about internally.
Okay, and then just how can students download GameMaker without actually creating an account?
Right, so students, there's a download option from our website to allow students to download GameMaker, and obviously then they can use the school username, and through the education seat management system, they can use username and password to access the version.
Okay, and then is the series supported with Mac as well as Windows?
Is the what, sorry?
It says, is the series supported with Mac as well as Windows?
Yes, so basically GameMaker runs on Mac and Windows.
Okay, and then, sorry, there's a lot of questions coming in.
That's all right, it's cool.
Going back to the laptop issue, if I have approximately 80 students each semester, so 160 students in total, the cost may be too high. Anything with, if you're looking for a quote, you can contact us at Studica. Our reps will be able to get those numbers for you, so you'll know either way if that's affordable or not. But you can do that by emailing info@studica.com, and I think that the contact info might be on the next slide.
If there's any more questions, I can move over to the next slide if you'd like me to, if we're finished with questions.
I'm just double checking. Yep, it looks like that's the end of them. If anybody does, feel free to pop in, but it doesn't look like there's any more right now.
Okay, right. Okay, well, I'll just hand over to you, Christy, for the final slide there.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Stuart. That was very
No worries.
informative. And if anybody would like, oh, one more question just popped in. Is there a desk version that can support multiple users?
So is there a desktop version that can support multiple users? Yeah, so when we say concurrent licenses, if you have a class of, say you have a classroom with 30 computers in, you can put 30 licenses on those computers, and then you can hold as many classes with different students as you like. So basically those licenses are assigned to that computer, and then if you've got 150 kids coming through on 5 lessons, then they can all use those licenses.
Perfect. And if you do have any questions or you would like a quote, you can contact us at Studica. It's info@studica.com. I'll also be putting together an email that will include the slides from this presentation, as well as a link to the recording and other helpful information. So if you need anything beyond that, just let me know and I'll make sure we get it for you. And if no one has any other questions, thank you for your time and thank you for joining us today. Have a great day.